Welcome back to Animation Rundown and another awesome movie recap video. Today we will be summarizing the plot of Ronal the Barbarian. The story starts with the reign of the devious ancient demon Zaal. He imprisoned every man on earth to use them as slaves until a brave warrior named Kron stood up against him. Putting up a fight, Kron defeated Zaal but got injured in his heart. As a result, he would not stop bleeding for 7 days straight. The free people started drinking his blood and gained immense strength. Unfortunately, Kron wouldn't live to see how he led to the formation of the barbarian race. He subsequently died because of his injury. Several years pass in the barbarian land and we get to meet Ronal. Ronal is not as strong as the other barbarians, who can crush skulls and walls without much effort. If not for his uncle, he would have given up on being strong and capable completely. His uncle has been preparing the people for another quest, and things have not been going great for Ronal. As Ronal tries to run away from training, a barbarian on the guard post alerts the others of a potential attack. But it turned out that it was not an attack, but an entertainer named Florian and his apprentice, Albert, approaching the town with his cart. With a bit of persuasion from Ronal, the barbarians stop suspecting Florian and Albert. Even that night, Ronal isn't able to run away from his occasional spouts of getting bullied. For some reason, Gorak kept hitting Ronal many times just to flirt with some woman, but none of them is aware of a suspicious man watching over them. This man reports to Lord Volkazar that he had found out where the barbarians lived. That night, Ronal was on guard as he offered to be, seeing that his uncle was tired. He notices the massive army but fails to alert the others because he was not strong enough to blow the horn. Lord Volkazar orders his men to open fire at the town with their catapults. Mistaking the catapults as fireworks, the barbarians do not have enough time to stand up and fight. Lord Volkazar's men stuffed the barbarian people into trucks. Ronal almost was killed since he did not look very strong, but he survives due to his uncle, who dies saving him. His uncle uses his last breath to tell Ronal that he must go to the Oracle and that he was the only hope left for the barbarian people now. As the sun rises, Ronal puts his grief aside and buries his uncle, and realizes that he isn't the only one left in the town. As he picks up Gorak's invisibility potion, he spots Alibert, who insists on coming along with Ronal to complete the mission. Even though Ronal tells him not to follow him, Alibert comes along anyway. The two end up on a narrow mountain where they find the Oracle. The Oracle fills them in on all he knows about Volkazar's armor. He tells them that no other weapon except Kron's sword can penetrate Volkazar's armor. When Ronal airily says that Kron's sword is just a myth, it does not settle well with the Oracle. The Oracle almost chokes Ronal out of anger as he goes on a rant about how the sword is very real and how only a true warrior will be able to yield it. On reaching his kingdom, Volkazar goes straight to his magician, Zaal, and tells him that he has prepared everything for the revival of Zaal. They start with the procedure, but it fails since one of the barbarians, Ronal, was not present there. Volkazar angrily commands his general to find the last barbarian. Meanwhile, Ronal is very happy that Alibert had decided to tag along with him for the mission. This is because of the song that Alibert was singing about Kron. The two figure out that the Book of Wisdom is in Elvingard, and the two fasten their pace. On their way to Elvingard, they come across dead bodies randomly lying down on the ground. They found the person responsible for this is a female warrior named Zandra. All those men lying on the ground were those who had challenged her to a duel. As Ronal starts crying, she decides to spare and help him out with his mission. From her information, Ronal and Alibert find out that a guy can be found in the next town, and that's where the trio decide to go. As they enter a building inside a town, supposedly a bar, Ronal asks the fairy if she could lend a guide to them. To this, she answers that there is only one guide left and beckons them toward the guide, Eric's whereabouts. Just as the trio was getting to know Eric, Lord Volkazar's men stomp into the place and take hold of Ronal. Thanks to Zandra, Ronal is alive and well, and the four of them leave a burning behind. The general reports this incident to Lord Volkazar and tells him about Zandra, referring to her as a great warrior who is helping Ronal. Lord Volkazar tells him to capture her along with Ronal. After a long and tiresome journey, the group finally reaches the gate of Elvingard, but to enter they had to meet up with the Guardians' expectations or else they will be crushed by the walls. Scared, Ronal convinces the others to go around the gate. This offends the Guardians and they narrowly escape. Zandra gave Ronal a mouthful when they do survive. Now that they could rest a bit, the group spots the Elven Tower. Remembering that he has Gorak's invisibility potion, Ronal decides to use it to reach the top of the tower. The potion works effectively except for a few parts of his body. He went past the guards, past elves working, and finally reaches the roof. He takes the book and steps outside to leave, but falls into a room instead. He barely manages to dodge the arrows that the elves were shooting at him, but he safely comes back to his friends. Eric derives the meaning behind the scriptures and says that Kron's sword has been buried with Kron in the Mountain of Eternity, and according to Alibert's knowledge, the mountain was pretty close. At the same time, Ronal and Zandra are having a heartfelt confession. She apologizes to him for underestimating him and asks him about how the Barbarians are. He tells her that the Barbarians are mighty strong people who have no fear. Next, she reveals to him that in order to marry, she needs to find someone who can defeat her. No one was able to defeat her, which is why the Maiden Elder sent her on a quest to find a husband. However, their talk is interrupted by unwanted guests. Out of nowhere, a flying monster captures Eric, and one of Lord Volkazar's soldiers captures Zandra. Ronal and Alibert manage to escape and find themselves in a cave where they too are captured by female warriors. At first, the Amazonian women think that they are just ugly women, but the two explain to their queen that they are actually men. The queen gets overjoyed and tells the guards to take them to the ladies' chamber. On the other hand, Zandra and Eric reach Lord Volkazar's palace. There, Zandra breaks free from the guards' grasp and demonstrates a very brave fight. She almost defeats him, but forgets that Lord Volkazar's armor is unbeatable and attacks him with an axe. As a result, she falls back and he pins her down. He says that he will not kill her and that she has to obey him because he defeated her. Despite the women's various advances, Ronal and Alibert try to escape from the place. To be more precise, Ronal had left before Alibert, as Alibert said that he wanted to stay. But within a while, Alibert has a change of heart and decides to leave. He is surprised when he sees Eric in a very disheveled state. Ronal does retrieve the sword and accidentally drops it on the floor. Out of nowhere, Zandra emerges and grabs the sword and Ronal and brings them to Lord Volkazar unwillingly. It seems that now nothing can stop him from achieving his evil goals. At the same time, Alibert and Eric disguise themselves as Lord Volkazar's guards and enter the palace. He sees that the barbarians are being taken to the mountain, all of them chained. Alibert gets inside the palace, finds Kron's swords, almost gets killed by a soldier, and runs away with the sword to find his friends. Alibert finds Ronal and frees him as well as hands him the sword. Ronal also frees the other barbarians who get into instant fight mode. Lord Volkazar tells Zandra to go and fight them. Ronal holds her off, and as she was not ready to give up, he traps her behind rocks. While all that was happening, Lord Volkazar drinks the barbarian's blood and retrieves Zaal's powers, which transforms him into a wicked demon. Alibert instructs Ronal to hit Lord Volkazar at his weak point, and after much effort, they defeat Lord Volkazar with each other's help. They have a heart ending with Eric giving others messages, Alibert becoming a popular guy amongst the ladies, and Ronal and Zandra getting married. It is truly a happy ending. That is the end of the video. Subscribe to our channel Animation Rundown for more fun movie recaps.